In its latest annual report, the African National Congress says the party's total membership dropped by nearly 200,000 between August 2022 and October 2024. The party also lost its majority vote in last year's elections, as we know, leading to the formation of the Government of National Unity. So let's unpack the ANC's performance with an associate at the Social Research Foundation, Gabriel Makin. It's great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. That's phenomenal, isn't it? Well, not phenomenal. It's quite remarkable. 200,000 in the space of 2 years. If we're going to say your losses on an annual basis, that's about 100,000 members per year.
Yes, it's rather extraordinary, but I think it speaks to a trend and a phenomenon that we saw play out in the results of last year's election. The fact that the ANC managed to lose 17 percentage points, which is more than the combined total it had lost in all other elections before that, I think speaks to the fact that not only is the ANC talking and advancing a policy platform that seems to be ideal for less and less people, but it also speaks to the fact that as the loss of 200,000 members points, that the ANC is unable to mount the same kind of effective campaigns that it was able to in the past, because it has less of a body of activists to draw from to forward their campaigns.
Yeah, absolutely. Extraordinary was the word I was looking for. So in terms of the data released by the party itself, Gabriel, why is the loss among the middle class and among organized workers one that we need to watch?
Well, I think that particularly the loss amongst the middle class speaks exactly to the policy platform that the ANC has been pursuing in the last parliament and has continued to pursue under the Government of National Unity. It is not a policy platform that sells for the middle class. On the Social Research Foundation's data, if I'm to do a kind of broad at the middle class, so categorize that as anyone earning around about 12,000 Rand a month to between 12 and 40,000 Rand a month, the top 5 issues for those voters are: number 1, jobs and unemployment; number 2, crime and insecurity; number 3 is tied between corruption and illegal immigration; and so number 5 is load shedding and electricity provision. And on all of those axes, the ANC does not provide a suitable policy to try and address the concerns of those voters. And so obviously, if these are the primary concerns of those voters, and the ANC does not have a policy platform that's geared towards addressing those concerns, then those voters will leave the party. And this is how it played out. And amongst organized labor and amongst union voters, well, the number 1 issue is jobs and unemployment. Of course it is, as well as the kind of collapsing infrastructure. And again, the ANC has demonstrated with its ability to, deal with load shedding for a certain amount of time and then lose a handle on load shedding and for it to return. It's demonstrated that it doesn't seem to take these issues seriously enough for the voters' taste. And if you repeat that cycle again and again and again, eventually you will lose even the most committed people. Even the members of your party will start to abandon you.
Yeah, and it's important that you say it doesn't address these issues seriously enough in terms of what voters see as being seriously enough. In its own annual report, the ANC acknowledges these challenges, right? It acknowledges that the defeat at the polls last year was humiliating, going from 57% to 40%, as we know. And the report also says the decline in electoral support is as a result of including its public image, which has been dented by corruption scandals, governance challenges, the formation of the GNU, the decline of traditional media, and the rise of digital platforms. The ANC also talks about the rise of AI. But the point I'm making is that the ANC government is well aware of the fact that its own image has been dented by issues of corruption within the party.
Yes, and it should have been well aware of that fact since the state capture scandal all the way back in 2016. It's had its image dented, and one of the things that I find interesting that the ANC comments on is how there, quote unquote, is a crisis of democracy in its report. I think that it's not a crisis of democracy, it's a crisis of confidence that's been engendered by the ANC's performance. The fact that it can recognize that the issues of corruption is important, but what it doesn't seem to recognize is that corruption as a issue, what corruption usually does is it gets voters to stay home because it engenders in those voters a sense of hopelessness and a sense of helplessness when it comes to the system. And if more and more, and they say that it's a problem that more and more voters are staying home. Well, the reason why more and more voters are staying home is that they do not perceive you to have been able to get a lid on the issue of corruption. And so they don't trust your party and they've lost trust in the system, therefore. And so it's a crisis that you have created, the ANC. It's not a crisis of democracy. It's rather extraordinary to me that they can take this, that they recognize this, but they don't recognize what their role has been in engendering this feeling within the country.
Yeah.
You were at 57%, you were the government, and now you're down to 40%, and you still think that the problem seems to lie primarily outside of your control. It is fully within your control, and it has been within your control the entire time.
Yeah, and the issue of renewal within the ANC, I forget, but we've been talking about renewal within the ANC, and its secretary generals have been talking about renewal within the party for a number of years.
Yes, and I think that the renewal it's a strategic blunder by the ANC to continuously talk about renewal, because what you do is, if I'm an ANC leader and I say this is our time to renew, we have, let's say it was the second election of President Ramaphosa as our leader. This is the renewal. What you do to the voters is you create a time horizon. You've said, okay, we recognize that we need to change the path that we were on, because that is what renewal signals to them. And we are now giving you a time horizon in which we will achieve this change. But the renewal does not seem to come because the ANC continues to walk down the path. And so what it's done by the constant talk of renewal of the party is it's created a number of false time horizons for voters who then just see that as a series of broken promises when the renewal never comes. And so again, the ANC feeds its own brand image by recognizing its faults in front of the voters, which is a brave thing to do, especially when you aren't going to change course in response to this recognition. If I was an ANC strategist, I would say, don't talk about renewal until we are able and capable of delivering a very public change of course. There is no point in mentioning the word renewal, because all you do is you create the impression in voters' minds that some big change is coming, and that if that change never comes, then all you do is create disappointment and you get people to check out of politics, which is what's happened.
Yeah, fascinating. And I wonder whether that's the kind of advice that the ANC is open to taking. Gabriel, let me thank you for your time this afternoon. It's all very interesting, of course, when we look at it in the lens of the elections last year and the upcoming local government elections next year.